Doomberg is an anonymous publishing firm that posts on Substack. They comes from the basis of significant industrial experience. They have been following the silver market for decades. This is what they says. Gold and silver markets. We've seen quite a bit of a rally in the last week and want half your perspective on this. Do you think the short-term rally will continue, or is it just a short-term rally? Is it going to? Are we going to see a pullback from here? So obviously it's a complicated question, and there's a lot of flows in precious metals, and I'm sure we'll get into the dollar and so on. But you know what? What's happened this week? Obviously the market reacted. As though the relatively low CPI print of 7.7% was indicative of a potential Fed pivot, perhaps sooner than the market was pricing. And so what we've seen since that day, you know, the markets were up something like I think 7%, the Nasdaq was up, but it just sort of a crazy, really feels like a bear market rally if we're being totally honest with you. But you know we're not traders, and so we leave the technical analysis to others. But we saw a collapse in the 2-year yields, trading now down to 4.3% from much more elevated levels prior to that. CPI print somewhere around 4/7, I believe, if memory serves. And if we think of the US dollar, and generally speaking that has been bullish, a bullish tailwind for gold, a potential contributing factor I think, and we could also get into this perhaps. Or in response to other questions has been this wipeout in the crypto space, and the collapse of the crypto exchange FTX and SBF is associated hedge fund Alameda Capital. And so you know there's been lots of pretenders to the title of best score value. I think gold's in particular has 5,000 years of evidence, and we're seeing on a relative strength basis ultimately is going to take a lot more to slots gold as the ultimate preserver of purchasing power and store value. And so I think those combination of factors, you know, in a time of crisis, gold is considered perhaps a safe haven. Now you know a real crisis correlations go to 1 and people sell what they can, not what they want to, and so that's why you see gold sell off sometimes in the true market panic. But given the euphoria of the relatively soft CPI print, the market repricing, the timing of a pivot, and this crypto collapse, I think though you mix those 3 things together and it's probably pretty favorable for gold. Now, whether it lasts is a whole different story. If this is truly a bear market rally and the Fed continues on its hiking cycle, then we shall see perhaps a different outcome. But yeah, it's been a fascinating week, certainly in the precious metal space. Yeah, so what we're seeing right now play out in the crypto space is truly remarkable. We're working on a piece right now, but it's been difficult to write it because the news flow has been so crazy and one crazy story after another. But the closest analogy that I would give for your viewers, we are running a repeat of the 2008-2009 financial crisis in the crypto world, but without the central bankers as lenders of last resort. And so we are going to see the full effect of contagion. You know, it's very difficult to articulate to those who don't have as much knowledge or experience of the crypto world just how systemic the collapse of FTX is. It's a truly, and the way it went down on Twitter was just really amazing. You know, the analogy I would say is, you know, the person who leads finance, which is FTX's biggest competitor at finance, is probably the largest crypto exchange in the world. FTX was really fast growing. He basically went on Twitter and all but sparked a bank run on FTX, the equivalent of Jamie Dimon going on CNBC and questioning the solvency of Bank of America. Like it. It really is remarkable that this happened on Twitter in real time. A panic ensued, and now of course we're starting to see some very bad signs about what potentially might have been going on there, and just how you know the potential misappropriation of customer deposits, and you know millions of innocent victims are going to be locked up in complex bankruptcy proceedings, their funds inaccessible. This is truly a devastating, we're talking about large sums of money. So one report from I believe it was Dow Jones or Wall Street Journal indicated that as much as $10 billion of customer funds may have been misappropriated and lent from the FTX exchanges to his personal hedge fund, Alameda Capital. And if that's true and that money's gone, this is a scandal that will dwarf Bernie Madoff or John Corzine and MF Global. This is a real big deal. And now we have all of this contagion. And so all the other exchanges and the cryptocurrency is really just going through a major wipeout. But again, unlike in 08-09, there's no Ben Bernanke to step in and socialize the losses here, and big and small, there's going to be an awful lot of losses, and I believe this is just beginning. This is going to be a very big story in the days and weeks and maybe even months ahead. So to be fair, I think we should separate and draw a distinction between crypto and Bitcoin. Now, the Bitcoin proponents would say that Bitcoin is digital gold, and Bitcoin does have a lot of attributes that I think are attractive too. People who would be of the Austrian School of Economics mindset and perhaps view gold as something worth owning. Crypto is a whole different universe, and what's going on right now is it could drag down Bitcoin, and it has dragged down the price of Bitcoin this week. As people sell off, you know what they can sell as opposed to what they would want to sell. But Bitcoin is a different beast, and I do think it's a separate and distinct beast, not the least of which because the US government has declared it as an asset, and it's very clear tax reporting and accounting rules around how to mark your gains and pay your taxes. And so when you know Bitcoin has some other attributes like a guaranteed limited supply and all the other things that the Bitcoin maximalists would argue make it a form of digital gold, the complete collapse in crypto has very little to do with Bitcoin but still could be systemic, and so that's why I'm wondering whether you know the sort of flight to quality that we're seeing, both into sort of T-bills and gold as interest rates come down. And as you know, gold is spiking almost like $150 this week. It's been pretty remarkable couple weeks. And so yeah, there's things to watch over there. But you know, crypto is definitely different than Bitcoin. And I didn't want any of my Bitcoin friends, because we have many Bitcoin maximalists who are subscribers to Doomberg to get annoyed with me for lumping them in with the rest of the crypto grift that we're seeing. But there's an awful lot of grift, it seems, in the crypto universe, and it's measured in the tens of billions. And that's a pretty big deal.